To participate remotely in this meeting as a voting member.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. The next regular meeting of the board will be held on Friday, August 25th at 9 a.m. We're going to take the annual meeting business, which is the election of the chair and vice chair out of order today. And vice chair here needs to step away around 9:30. And I'm going to temporarily turn over the chairmanship to vice chair here during the board's consideration of the item related to the election of the board chair. Thank you. And I will be recusing myself on the matter. Over to you, Director.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to, at this moment, open the floor for nominations for chair. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll state that again. Vice Chair Deere now opens the nomination for the floor for nominations for chair. Do we have any nominations for chair?
If it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I would nominate Lyndon Taylor to continue as chair of the Cook County Health and Hospital System Board of Directors.
I was second that nomination.
Thank you so much, Director Reader. It has been nominated. It has been a motion's been out there to nominate Mr. Lyndon Johnson as chair. And it's been second. Are there any other nominations?
I move that the nomination be closed. Second.
It has been moved and properly second that the nominations be closed and that Lyndon Johnson is the only nominee for chair. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion has been made and seconded and voted upon that Lyndon Taylor is chair.
This is Mr. Chair, as a point of information, can I have a point of information?
Please.
Just to clarify, we have elected Lyndon Taylor, not the late Lyndon Johnson.
I did correct myself. Let it be known.
Dennis, I love you, but if you corrected yourself, we didn't hear it.
Look, I promoted him to a president. So I stand corrected, Chair Reader. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Knowing that there are no other nominations.
I better second his nomination now. So.
That's correct. And that Lyndon Taylor has received the majority of votes. I now turn the chairmanship back to our board chair and continue the election of vice chair. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Director Deere. I really appreciate it. And you did correct yourself. I caught it very quickly. Lyndon Taylor, so for all of you who know. Appreciate being here. I would like to open the floor to nominations for the vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Deere as to the position of vice chair of the Cook County Health and Hospital System Board going forward. I second the nomination.
We have a nomination made for Director Deere as Vice Chair. Are there any other nominations? Thank you. As there are no other nominations, the floor is now closed, and we'll vote on the matter of election of Director Dennis Deere as Vice Chair. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
For the record, can I please state that that was an enthusiastic aye from Director Ryder?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All this.
Thank you. The ayes have it. The motion carries to elect Director Dennis Deere as the Vice Chair. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, so make sure we're here. The next item on today's agenda is employee recognition, which will be led by Ms. Valerie Amos.
Good morning, this is Valerie Amos.
Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning, good morning.
See, everyone's perky today, Valerie.
Obviously. I'm Valerie Amos, Chief Human Resources Officer. So we are excited to share some of our new hires. Louis Alvery, who's our Director of Marketing and Public Relations. Yolanda Harris, our Communications Manager in Public Health. James McKenzie, our Chair of Division of Child, Adolescent, and Psychiatry, Child. Vivian Moreno Barrett, who's our Program Manager, Maternal Child Health, Public Health. Latanya Parks, Hardgrove, Clinical Nurse Leader, Nursing Professional Development. Next slide, please. Bria Robinson, who's over the Children's Behavioral Health. She's the Program Manager within County Care. Jonathan Roman Aponte is the Ambulatory Clinic Manager, North Riverside Health Center. Gianna Seffer, Director of Clinical Operations, County Care. Angela Smith, our Associate Chief Information Officer for Health Information Systems. Samantha Walton, Clinical Nurse Leader, Ambulatory Procedures Unit. Angela Whitaker, our House Administrator for Nursing Administration. We also have promotions. Mignet Abigail, our Clinical Nurse Leader, Nursing Professional Development. Jennifer Brothers, our Executive Director, Impact Fund and Community Services for the Behavior Area. Carol Reese, our Director of Trauma, Recovery, Intervention, and Prevention. And Serena Valino, Associate Director of Nursing Professional Development. Please join me in congratulating all of the promotions and welcoming all of our new hires. Moving to recognition. We'd like to recognize Dr. Jarrell Alexander. Congratulations to Dr. Jarrell Alexander, the Chair of Oral Health, for earning the Medicine Award for the 2023 Health and Medicine Policy Research Group Awards. This award recognizes a health care leader who builds power and momentum for social justice and health equity in Illinois. Dr. Alexander was selected as an exceptional leader who prioritizes access to health, high quality oral health care for everyone and strives to deliver exceptional oral health care to her patients. Throughout her career, she has excelled at forging relationships and forming alliances, fostering partnerships and collaborations that drive progress and ensure access to care. I don't believe Dr. Alexander is here today, but please join me in welcoming or congratulating her on this award.
Congratulations.
Doug, is that you? Come on.
Come on.
So we also like to congratulate Dr. Ezekiel Richardson. Congratulations to Dr. Ezekiel Richardson, Emergency Medicine Physician and Fellow in CCH Preventative Medicine Program, for earning the Emerging Leader Award for the 2023 Health and Medicine Policy Research Group Award. He was selected for his leadership and service of multiple organizations that aim to prolong the lives of individuals in underserved communities through medical care, organizing, and activism. Dr. Richardson serves as medical liaison for the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, Chicago Community Liaison for the National Board of White Coats for Black Lives and is a sitting physician representative on Chicago's Community Health Equity Coalition. The 2023 HMPRG Awards Gala will be held on September 20th. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Richardson for this great award.
Congratulations, well done, Dr. Richardson. Appreciate it.
So next, coming to the stage, we have Angela O'Banion. Congratulations to Angela O'Banion, Chief Information Officer, for earning the National Forum Black Public Administrators Chicago Chapter Mark of Excellence Public Administrator Award. The Mark of Excellence Award is bestowed upon African American public administrators who have achieved extraordinary success in the field of public management while demonstrating an unselfish commitment to the community. Ms. O'Banion was recognized for her hard work and determination to achieve excellence and quality in patient care. Please join me in congratulating my colleague, Ms.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations again to all for the well-earned recognition. We really appreciate it. And welcome to all of our new team members as well. We really appreciate it. The next item on the agenda are the committee reports. Oh, I'm sorry, you're exactly right. The next item on the agenda is public testimony. As a reminder, written testimony will not be read into the record, but will be included in the official record of this meeting and posted on the website. Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers who have registered to provide in-person or virtual oral testimony or submitted written testimony?
We received registrations for 4 in-person oral testimonies and no written testimony. Bridget Sumo is the first speaker, and as a reminder to the speakers, you have 3 minutes, and I'll remind you when you have 30 seconds remaining. Bridget?
Good morning, board.
Good morning.
And everyone. My name is Bridget Sumo. I'm a med-surg nurse, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I'm here because I want to advocate for my patients and my fellow nurses. We're having a staffing crisis where every day when we come in, it's a different amount of patients that we are having to take care of. 1 minute it's 7 patients, the next minute it's 8 patients. From day to day, it's different. And there's nothing in writing. It's just being told to us by day to day, and this is putting us and our patients in an unsafe position. I personally have been charge nurse and a chemo nurse on night shift, having 6 patients of my own and having to go to another unit to hang chemo. So now I'm leaving my 6 patients with another nurse to cover it who has 6 patients of their own, and I have to go to another unit to hang chemo. You know, so that's unsafe, and I just want everyone to know that we're coming in on behalf of the patient, because we don't want something to happen before we say something. You know, this is something that can end up bad for a patient. If you have 7 patients, somebody is being admitted, you're trying to help another patient, another nurse is doing something for their patient, and it's 3 nurses, 4 nurses on a unit with all of these patients. So we're asking that, you know, maybe we look into the hiring process to try to get these more nurses on the floor quicker when they're hired, or, you know, maybe give incentives to get more nurses to come onto the unit, but something has to be done before something happens to our patient. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Falguni Dave.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Falguni Dave. I'm a charge nurse in IMCU, but I've worked med-surg as well. I've been with the county 10+ years. So, having said that, the recent staffing shortage is not something that's safe for our patients or our nurses. Med-surg nurses having to take 8, 9 patients is by any means, by any hospital. I know that the hiring process here is not as smooth as it should be. Someone needs to look into the HR and the process of hiring people. Why are nurses being called in to come in for, open hiring? And there's only one position that people are interviewing for. I mean, that's a waste of county tax dollars. It's a waste of, the people's time that come here to apply for these positions. I've had agency nurses come to me and say, hey, Falguni, I've applied for such and such position. It's been 6 months. Nobody's called me. So there's something that's messed up in the whole hiring process. When I say that our 70% agency nurses and 30% staff nurses, that's unacceptable. It takes a lot of money, a lot of effort to bring in agency nurses, to train them, to bring them on board. That's a lot of taxpayer dollars being wasted there. When you can streamline your process to hire core staff, train them, and figure out how to retain them, you need to give them better incentives because nurses are going down the street for better pay. And the conditions that are being provided are completely unsafe for staff. They're unsafe for patients for sure. It's just a sentinel event waiting to happen if not one has already happened somewhere within the hospital due to the staffing issues. There's no shortage of nurses. The nurses are tired of working under these horrible, horrible conditions. And they've refused to put their licenses at risk, taking care of patients who they love to take care of. This is why they became nurses. And unfortunately, hospitals are not providing us with the support that we need. We've been told to collect quality data as part of nursing jobs, which is not our job whatsoever. We have to answer phone calls, direct phone calls on units because we have no clerk. We have to do
30 seconds remaining.
Okay, a lot more than what the nurse entitles. We started with 300 some odd positions at the beginning of our contract fight, which we were told that, it would be filled. Now we're at 774 open vacant RN positions. I just need to understand how that's possible. I invite all you guys to walk up onto our units at any random time and see how these patients are cared for, and then think to yourself, do you want your family members to be taken care of by nurses that are constantly running around? Because that's just not acceptable. I would not want my loved one to be here, and I'm pretty sure none of you would want your loved ones to be, taken care of in a rush manner or miss something that is very critical to their care. And also just wanted to recognize all the nurses that showed up here, and there's a lot more actually that want to come, but they've worked nights and it's very hard for them to try to push through for a few more hours.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The next speaker is Patricia Ozegby.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Patricia Ozegby. The nurses, what the two past speakers have said is exactly what's going on in the unit. And I have been in this hospital for the past 14 years. And I have been to talk to you guys before. This is not my first time of coming to the board meeting. I've been here before to let you guys know what's going on in the unit. And I have a problem that we continue to complain about things that are happening to our patients and the nursing shortage. I don't understand why the nursing shortage or the short staffing is going on for the past 14 years, and we are being told that we are working on it. How long does it take to get the problem fixed? Okay, yesterday we had an emergency meeting with the nursing management, and they told us that they are working on it. This is what they told me the last time before I came to board meeting to complain. And over the years, I have written many petitions complaining about the situation in the unit, that we are short and we are working under unhealthy condition. The med-surg in this hospital working condition is very unhealthy, and they are complaining about nurses calling in sick. They are calling in sick because they are tired. The ones that are not tired just quit altogether. And the ones that decide to stay, just stay there to call in to recoup so that they can come back and continue. So most of the time, the petitions I have written, recently I sent a petition to my manager, copying the head of the nursing department. Nobody has called me to discuss that petition, and I have a copy of that petition here, which I'm going to give to you guys. This is the kind of things that we're dealing with in the unit. 8 patients, 7 patients per nurse. 2, the agency nurses have been brought in to help us. But even the agency nurses are not even being properly organized. So you have an agency nurse that come into the unit, work 6 hours in one unit, and then the agency, they have 7 patients in one unit, 6 hours, then they pull them to another unit, work another 6 hours with another 6 or 7 patients. What type of care can they give to these patients? They have 12 patients in their 12-hour shift.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, you have 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, so it's impossible to do this. But anyway, I will conclude, if you will please indulge me, to let you see what is actually going on in the unit. Just the 12th of this month we are in, I was at the unit. We had a death. A patient died. The family visited earlier before this patient passed away. And then the doctors called the family at home that your loved one has died. So the family turned around and come back to the hospital. Excuse me. I'm sorry. So the whole family came back to the unit. Meanwhile, the clerk is somewhere else because they are covering several other units. All the nurses are in the room taking care of the patient. So nobody saw this family come in. So they came in, went into the room to view their mother. They were there for God knows how long, we didn't know. So they showed up. Then I came out of the room. One of them is out in the hallway crying, demanding, where are the staff? Why is that nobody's helping us? We were not there to even comfort them or help them with their grief. It took a lot. I was supposed to go home. I had to stay to manage this situation. This is the kind of thing we meet day by day in the unit. And all we hear is we are working on it. They've been working on it for 14 years that I've been here. Nothing has been solved. But you expect me to do my own job and do it perfectly? Why is it that these things are not fixed? The hospital told us they have 5 to 1. They have the staffing ratio is 5 nurses, 2 PCA. They've been working on this for 14 years. Why is it not fixed? Why can't they fix it? And this is what they tell the state. This is what they also told us, that they can't just fix it. This problem has been ongoing with no solution since I got here. Could you guys please help us fix this problem? Because it's really gone from bad to critical now. The situation is actually very critical. I thank you guys for listening. And I'm just going to submit this as part of my complaint because I gave them this complaint. Nobody answered me. I was ignored.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Elizabeth Lala.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here, and as you can see, I want to acknowledge all the nurses who are here from my division. My name is Elizabeth Wallish. I'm a clinical nurse 1 in the medical surgical division. I've been there for 12 years. And I'm also, we're all members of National Nurses United, which is our union here at the hospital. And, you know, there are obviously agency nurses, but we still are here. I want to say that, just a quick thing, that, you know, we are the staff, for the most part, that have carried this system through COVID. I myself was on 3 rounds of COVID in the medical surgical division over the last 3 years. So we are the people who carried this system forward. We were here for our patients and the community, and I know this hospital system was hit harder than probably most in the city. So our commitment to our patients really cannot be in question. And so that's what we're here for, is to advocate for our patients as nurses, because in the last month or so, and I agree with Patricia, obviously this is an ongoing crisis of fewer and fewer nurses and more patients. The demand is very high to fill those positions. But in the last couple of months, we've been told by our nursing management and by my, you know, from at all levels, that we need to accept taking 7 patients each. And we have also been threatened with discipline when we've raised objections to that, which is really probably the hardest thing to take as we're trying to work with patients, is to then be threatened with, if you don't do this, we'll discipline you. There's nothing in writing, and that we don't have any caps. We actually have staffing plans that are submitted to the state of Illinois that Patricia just talked about, of certain units have on average 22 patients, 20 patients should have 5 nurses, and certain number of ancillary staff. We advocate for that, so there actually are caps. It can't be said that, and we're not saying that there isn't a flood of people coming into the hospitals. I think people didn't come into the hospital because of COVID for a very long time, and they're very sick, and we know that in this system. And so the problem being that we can't, you know, be asked to do more and more with less and less. And it's just been kind of a sudden thing, so that's why we're here. I mean, it's been an ongoing problem of hiring. Like one of my colleagues said, Foguni, 300 positions were won when we had our strike in 2021. They haven't been filled. It's now doubled, if not tripled. And that means more and more pressure on the frontline staff. Are we at
30 seconds remaining? Yes, thanks.
I'm just here to say, like, I was a charge nurse on my unit. We're 4 nurses. I had 4 or 5 patients. My colleagues had 6 and 7. We had what we call a pre-code. Someone got very sick and needed to be moved down to the ICU. Luckily, one of the doctors caught that. But that's the possibility of what happens when you have fewer and fewer nurses, because we can't be vigilant on our patients the way we actually want to be. And I think the hiring process is a problem. I'll just wrap up with this. I know we've been told we're working on it, talk to your colleagues, get people into the hospital. They're not going to come into the hospital if I tell them you have 7 patients on average, and the management is telling you have to take those people. That the ED is saying that the discharge process is an hour or less. All you're doing is cranking people in and out, and you're not actually helping us, you know, bring people in and take care of them, right? The discharging somebody who's stable is not the same as taking care of an acutely sick person, which we have a mix of all those people. So in the hiring process, just one quick thing on that. We heard from some new nurses that they just came in a little while ago, that it took them multiple times calling the HR department to even get a response to their offer letter. One nurse even said it took her 27 times calling the HR department to get a response. That's unacceptable as far as we're concerned. So that's it. I'm sorry I went over time. Thank you for giving me a little bit more. And, you know, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for those who testified and came before us, and for those who are here. We really appreciate it. This is issues that you're bringing to us. And I think we do know that we're reworking the processes. We are focused on it. For those who can stay, there is going to be an update on the processes. I think the last fair and the consultants that we even hired to supplement the HR processes and recruiting. We have brought in recruiters to do that and help. And so we know more needs to be done and needs to be done faster. No excuse, right? Understand that. I appreciate it. So thank you again. Come up. Thank you. Next on the agenda are the board and committee reports. The minutes of the June 30th board meeting are being presented for your approval. Are there any corrections or revisions to be made to the minutes? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve item 5A, June 30th board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Before we move on, I'd like to acknowledge the Director Bott is present. Thank you. Next, Director Garza and Valerie Amos will now review the HR committee metrics. That committee did not meet this month, so the metrics are being presented directly to the board. No one decided to stay and listen. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I jump into my update, I do want to say that as the chair of this committee, Human Resources Committee, I've been working very closely with Ms. Amos, and I know that this issue is at the top of her priority, and I see every effort being made to resolve it. So to include creativity and best practice and bringing the resources in necessary to resolve it. So I just want to be on the record to say that.
Thank you.
With that, you're welcome. With that, the Human Resources Committee did not meet this month. The next regular meeting is scheduled to be held on Thursday, August 17th at 12 p.m. The committee is due to present metrics. So I'd like to introduce Ms. Valerie Amos, who serves as the Chief Human Resources Officer. She'll review the metrics with us today.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
This is Valerie Amos, Chief Human Resources Officer. Right. So on the slide before you, I'd like to report out the year-to-date metrics in terms of hiring. So we've just heard lots of testimony about hiring and our progress. So December 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 is represented on the slide. We have extended almost 1,000 offers in a 6-month period. So 991 offers have been extended. 806 of those have been accepted. And to the right, you'll see 492 of those are external hires. So by far, since FY 2018 through present, we have not extended this amount of offers since that period of time. We have had full fiscal years where we have not extended 1,000 offers. So we are certainly extending offers quicker. As most of you know, there's a workforce shortage and we continue to be challenged with that. But as Director Garza mentioned, we are definitely looking for creative strategies, hosting job fairs, employing the recruitment and retention bonus that has been approved by the Board of Commissioners and this board and supported by our president as well as our CEO. So we appreciate all of the efforts and support. In terms of net new hires, we have now, year to date, we have 149 net new hires, and 81% of our offers have been accepted. So 185 individuals have declined our offers, and we think that that is important to track for a variety of reasons. They have declined the offer. So just wanted to give you a full picture of the hiring activity on a quarterly basis. At the graph below, you will see quarterly, our highest peak was 361 in one quarter, and so we will continue to trend quarter by quarter. So average time to fill or posting positions to offer accepted, we are at 91 days overall. And so our goal for a public entity such as Cook County Health, the national standard is 119 days. We want to exceed that, so we have a goal of 90, and so we'd like to ensure that we meet that goal and exceed that goal. Next slide, please. So this information in terms of offers and fields are depicted in a different way here. 786 individuals of that 806 on the previous slide have actually started with us or filled their position. So when I mentioned before, 806 were internal promotions, external hires, as well as promotions. Of that particular number, 786 of them have either started in their new roles or have joined the organization. We think that that's also a critical metric, and as you can see, year over year, for the first 6 months, FY '22 as well as '21. And we do have previous years that I did not depict here. We are certainly exceeding those particular years. The breakdown below, external versus internal, is also listed there. And as you can see, we are definitely exceeding both fiscal years. Next slide, please. In terms of turnover, we still see that individuals are leaving us due to retirement and other factors. However, we are still trending at a much lower turnover rate. Our benchmark, national benchmark for 2021 is almost 26%, and so we are at 6%, and I think that that's a very strong metric and something to be proud of. Next slide, please. Separations are depicted here. 343 people have separated from the organization in the first 6 months. And so as you can see, year over year, we are tracking this particular metric, and it's an important metric. I have mentioned at previous board meetings that the average age of our employee is 48. For nursing, it is 51. For physicians, it is 41. So we do have a very tenured organization, and many people are very committed and dedicated to the organization, and we appreciate that. However, we are looking for, additional staff to join us through those creative strategies that I've shared in previous meetings. But as you can see, year over year, we still are tracking at a large amount in terms of our separations. The bottom graph also depicts FY '23 in the dark. Retirement is represented by 129 individuals. Resignations is 188, and discharges is 26. So we are monitoring these metrics. We anticipate, a fair number of retirees coming up pretty soon. We are looking at that on a quarterly basis. We have a forecasting tool, as I've mentioned before, and so we can tell by job title and by quarter how many individuals have reached the age of 60 as well as 30 years of accrued pension. And so our tenure is very high here, and that's something that we have to really balance with all of our job fairs and our other creative measures. Next slide, please. Turnover is depicted on this slide. As you can see, quarter by quarter, we are trending in a nice direction. However, we don't want anyone to leave, but we understand that they have to leave, and we will continue to track and trend. Next slide, please. This slide depicts the turnover from FY 2018 through present. As you can see, we were much lower back in 2018 and 19. And then you can see the peak. There were quite a number of individuals who left post-COVID, and so we are now starting to trend downward, and we hope that trend line continues to go down. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, we have a tenured workforce, and this is a depiction of our retirement impact. So I'm looking around the corner. Yes, my eyes are wide open as the chief of HR and many other HR leads. We understand that there are challenges at our organization as well as their organizations. CCH is not unique and different from many other organizations as it relates to the needs. And so this particular slide represents the retirement impact. We have over 200 employees who are at that age of 60 plus and 30 years of pension accruals. And so they are at high risk for retirement. We appreciate the commitment and service, but we have to be realistic that we still have a tenured workforce and people will leave us. Over 400 of those individuals are at the age of 60 and could be eligible for retirement in 1 to 10 years. So at any point in time, they could also say, well, here's an opportunity for me to step out of the organization. I mentioned those stats before. 48 is our average age of the workforce, 51 for nursing. Our physicians are at 41. And so as we continue to hire some of our new graduates and some of our new talent to the organization, we want to really balance that out. And so we're excited about all of the opportunities that we have. The graph bar represents quarterly forecasts. 141 individuals could retire in this particular quarter. All of them have not, but they could because they are eligible. And as you can see, the bar goes up and up, 174 for quarter 4 and then quarters 1 and 2 of the next fiscal year. So we do have a challenge ahead of us. We have our eyes wide open. We understand the challenges, and we are certainly looking towards eradicating some of our challenges here. Next slide, please. We talked about the commitment and dedication of our employees, and so for the first time in the history of the organization, we launched our recruitment and retention bonus. This slide depicts our retention portion of the bonus. We had over 2,600 employees to receive the retention bonus agreement. That represented 5 unions. NNOC was one of those unions, and every one of their nurses who met the criteria received a retention bonus agreement. They had to sign the agreement in order to receive their bonus. And so we worked with NNOC as well as many of the other unions to ensure that their members were notified in a timely manner and that they had plenty of time to sign those bonuses. So every nurse who was in the NNOC category, as well as many other of the unions, they had an opportunity to participate in this program. So we're very proud of the program. It's the first year. It is a pilot, and we're excited about it. Over 138 job titles were included in this bonus program, which represents 46% of our workforce. So I just, wanted to, again, acknowledge the CCH board here, as well as the Board of Commissioners, our CEO, and our president for allowing us to come up with a program that is definitely needed in terms of attracting and recruiting, as well as retaining individuals. Next slide, please. I will take questions.
Hi. Thank you, Ms. Ames,
Yes.
for that very important information. Something stuck with me, though, with the last nurse presenter, and I know it may have been anecdotal, but these are types of things that hit me. And it may have been anecdotal, where she referenced a person calling in 27 times without a response. And I'm not asking you to give anything on it now, but I want to be sure that you have things in place that type of thing should not, in my estimation, occur. And again, I don't know what the veracity is of that, but if you're able, if there's some way to look into that, I'd like to hear how that was or was not handled. Maybe it's not factual, but just wanted to go on record that did hit me in a way from a service standpoint. Absolutely, I appreciate that. And certainly we can look into that, and I can come back with some details once I understand who that individual is. We do not have a CRM tool. We don't have a tool. It requires a live person, and that live person who sits at the desk also gets up and badges people and steps away and so forth. So we can certainly look into that and make certain that that is mitigated. Appreciate it. If that indeed happens that way. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Continuing with Director Curry's statement, here's a question. Is there an issue with staffing from your department?
Well, definitely we have filled a number of the recruiter positions. The team that manages the front desk does have many duties, if you will. And so some of those duties, as I just mentioned, requires them to get up and badge individuals and so forth. And so we can look at our model and see if there's some opportunities there. We have brought in some contractors that this board has allowed me to bring in, and we can perhaps bring in some more. So we definitely can use more staff to onboard all of our new hires and our agency workers, because that same team onboards quite a number of individuals.
Okay. The other question I have that pertains to the testimonies that we heard earlier. I heard statements that they made, and a lot of it came before your time, like far before your time. My question is it reasonable or possible for the nurses who seem to be very concerned, which makes sense, to understand that there is a plan and to actually see some of the great work that has been accomplished, because the data tells the story. And it'd be great if they could be privy to that information in some way, so they'll understand that, to use a colloquial term, there's a new sheriff in town, and you are doing really good work. Just truthfully, if it wasn't good, I wouldn't say it. I guess everyone knows I'm fairly truthful.
To be honest, some of that falls on the operations, so I will help Valerie out with this question. So we actually, our nursing leadership team, when they referenced, had town halls to let them know the progress. The difference in the number of positions they referenced was us actually adding back to the budget positions that have been removed. So when there was a time when we had, during 2018, 2017, where nursing positions were removed because there were some financial challenges with the organization. When we were able to stabilize, we put them back. And so that was part of the reason why you've seen some of those vacancies increase, was we put more positions back. We've had a higher census. We do monitor every day, under requirement from the Illinois Nurse Practice Act, how we are doing, and we are within the ranges that we monitor consistently. Whenever we have surges, and that's why agency exists also. It's not just for vacancies, but when we have a planned budget that we predict historically how many nursing positions it's going to take to fill and what our medical census looks like. Over the last few weeks, we have been seeing a large increase in that volume. And in that time, we immediately acted, but it takes sometimes a week or two to get them onboarded. And we brought on board 60 agency nurses to handle the higher surge that are now onboarded in an operation. In that time, we also had a nursing fair that had over 160 applicants. I know about 40 have already received offers and more still to come. And so we act pretty quickly on it. And so it's just an issue in which there was a bolus of patients that hit over the last few weeks. And that's great. We want them using our services. We have to make sure we're moving and having throughput throughout the organization. And we do monitor and see what we can do to make sure that there's no stress that's insurmountable to the system while meeting the care. And then we act as quickly as we can to onboard the resources to come. And I do know that our nursing leadership team did have town halls to explain the progress going forward and that changing. But I also do understand from the employee's perspective that that's their story, and this is about us making sure that we hear their story too. And so I think we heard their story, and we take it with us to make sure that we're improving. We'll go back and look if there's ways we can optimize and better predict when we're going to have boluses of patients and what's going to happen so that we can make adjustments. And so I think that we are always seeing what we can do better. But I would say that one of the issues that was driving that was we're having more patients, and that's a positive thing in a sense, but it's a stress thing that we did immediately correct. We did immediately put more resources on going forward. And when we have these conversations with agencies, it's important to know it's not just something that's filling. It sometimes lets you flex your staff when you have a larger than historical number of patients that you've had, so that you can meet that safe staffing and have those resources. And so that really is what occurred. We shifted, we monitor, we have tools, we review it, action was taken. It just takes a little bit of time to get the resources you need when you have people coming in. And so, in summer is also a time where you have challenges overall, which is not, we need to prepare for that, but it's also, you have call out, you have summer vacations, you have even less of your regular resources. And so it creates some challenges, but we did work quickly to make sure those challenges were met. And we will be meeting with the team to make sure that they understand and know where we're going forward. But we take for us, it is important to hear their voice, their experience, so we can fix it. And we thank them for coming forward and for communicating their concerns. And we will make sure that we further look and refine our operations so that we can even avoid it altogether by predicting.
If I can, real quick, I think it's important to understand that history that you referenced has not been great, and this team has done a very good job. As you pointed, the data tells a story, but that's the story, that's a more recent story. And when you have situations where it throws them back into what their experience was before, there's a response, because for a very long time, this organization was, there was a lot, it shouldered a lot of extra stress that was brought on by other parts of the county services and balancing, and we've done a good job, I think, in the last 3 years of, you know, refocusing ourselves as being a standalone operation within a broader governmental body. Doesn't mean that that the hospital doesn't still have interplay with everything else, and we don't work with our commissioners and the president's office, who are all great leaders on this. But, you know, I really do think, and it's the going into county care, you know, prior to Israel and his team coming in, I think, helped, but I really think that the structural changes that we've made, just for some people, they just haven't, they didn't happen quick enough for them because they've been here a long time. So, that's part of it. And I do appreciate the fact that the CEO is acknowledging that our nurses today, they have their story, because part of it is too, is that, and, many of you are either clinicians or have worked in administration. You know that when you improve an organization, it doesn't happen uniformly across the board, and some units will get slammed, in a way that maybe another unit's not experiencing. So I think, we need to be sensitive to that, and that goes into the data set, right? Like, we're seeing shifts in, where, like this summer, this unit's getting crushed in a way that maybe others aren't, and maybe that's a change, or, we learn those lessons, we take the feedback, we take the punches, and we improve. And I think that is another key difference that I appreciate here, is that active listening is an incredible tool that we haven't always practiced at Cook County Health. And I think having that active, there's been times where where Cook County Health has said that we've been active listeners, but I don't know that I've even fully believed it even in my time here, but I do believe it now. So I think it's good, and I would encourage everyone to continue to challenge us, the nurses, our other staff, and the public, and to hold us accountable. And I appreciate that we embrace that.
Absolutely. And that's really what we want to do. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to provide a context, and I also want to acknowledge the nurses that came in, that their public testimony was compelling. It was something that evoked sympathy for the situation they described and they find themselves in. But it's important to remember that prior to COVID, we had a problem recruiting nurses. It's not that we all of a sudden have a problem recruiting nurses. COVID inexorably changed the landscape in terms of nursing, in terms of opportunities for nursing, particularly with registries. And when you can make in 3 days what you could make in a week prior to COVID, it's more attractive to go to registry and do that than work in an institution. So the situation we face is not unlike situations faced by other institutions throughout the city. So we're all in the same boat with regard to that, and we're all treading water and doing the best we can. The other thing, again, it gets back to COVID. The initial message was not go to a hospital. They told people not to go to hospitals because hospitals were overflowing. They didn't need more patients coming to the hospital. So we had messaging that told people not to come to the hospitals, and people heeded that message. And as they pointed out, some people are sicker now than they were before COVID because they avoided care because we were telling them not to come to the hospital. So this is something that's grown and gotten out of control at this point. At some point, it may return back to normal, but normal was still having problems recruiting nurses. So we're in a situation where we're doing the best we can. We're treading water. I would ask people to bear with us while we try to get through this and get to a point where we can be fully staffed and do what we can to support our nurses. I also want to point out, because we did hear that most of the nurses had worked 14 or 15 years in this institution. So as bad as we are, or as bad as it may sound, we may be better as an institution than people may perceive. And I do want to thank them for their commitment to their patients and their testimony today.
Mr. CEO, the one Mr. Chairman, one thing that, you know, as Joe was talking to, that I also want to acknowledge, because it brings, you know, again, this, what we're talking about in terms of history before that goes back, is that we've had a lot of good people here, and I should acknowledge this, prior to this team, who've been here a long time, who've worked on fixing the hiring system, because some of this history goes back, and this is a Chicago problem, right? With hiring, you know, having to have hiring monitors and hiring plans, and we've had to navigate through that because the way people got hired in the city wasn't, you know, and that includes Cook County Hospital and Stroger. You know, there were problems over how people ended up in jobs, and, you know, Carrie and other people have worked hard to get us to a place where we're, you know, where we're recognized as professionalizing how we hire people at that very first level, that we're not, you know, that the hospital is just not a dumping ground for patronage, which we are not. And, you know, I think that's important too, because that's another layer that a lot of other institutions don't have to deal with, and we've done a good job of navigating through that as well.
First, I want to say I agree with my colleague, Director Ryder's statement that it is a Chicago issue, but actually it's more than that as well. It's a national issue. I mean, you have nurses that relocate from this metropolitan area to go to other states to work. You know, it's an issue of economics too. I mean, nurses are in demand when there's such a shortage. I also appreciate your comment about the history. The history is important. Not that you own it or Israel owns it, because you weren't here when those shortages were happening. But it's important that we acknowledge it, because that's their experience, not just their story, it's their experience. And I think any time we could be transparent about the progress that's being made, to my colleague, Director Robinson's point, we should, whether that's in town hall meetings or just as informational purposes, getting the information out there about the tremendous progress, yes, that has been recent, but it is being made. And I think that's a reflection of the leadership, your work, the team's work, Gary's work. So I think where we have those opportunities, we should share that information. And finally, back to Director Robinson's question about the shortage in HR. So, in the staffing. So is the staffing materially affecting the process or the timing of how we're able to hire people?
So we have, first of all, thank you all for your comments and your feedback. I think that it's critically important for us to, you know, take all of that information and absorb it and see how we can continually improve. To answer your specific question, we have not filled all of our vacancies in HR. We have done much better. We have almost 10 recruiters now. And so we're excited about that. When I started, we had 4 and then 3, and then we needed to rebuild. And so with the consultants, from a recruiting perspective, we are able to move things faster. Mr. Rocha mentioned that there were some agency individuals that were brought aboard really rapidly. So the team who answers the phone, they also onboard those contingent workers. And so when there's a bolus around the organization, so we don't have necessarily the team to flex sometimes and really flex to those needs. And so that's something that we have to look at and determine how we can support that better. So no, we don't have every vacancy in HR filled, but we have filled a number of them. We filled our EEO operations counselor. We filled EEO specialists. We've filled a variety of HR liaisons to support the employees much better. We filled most of the recruitment related positions. However, our HR operations side, kind of the back of house, those individuals who really support the employees' needs, tuition reimbursements, leave of absences, answering the phone. So we don't have that CRM tool, but we have a live person who needs to sit there and answer. We do have a system that will track the messages that come in, but then it requires a human to go in and also check those messages. So we can certainly improve. We just need some sophisticated, systems to probably help us and through AI and other, factors in the future.
Thank you.
So I appreciate
Director
that.
Garza, before you go, Director Borad would like to have a question. I know if you saw it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Director Bond.
Are you sure? All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to certainly echo the comments and go on record saying that the important comments from the nursing community are compelling and certainly something that we should just think through also in the context of the quality patient safety work, which I know that the team is working on in terms of high reliability and understanding what we can do to improve and respond appropriately. And I think the point was made earlier about similar to baseball, there are more games to play with less people. They're because of COVID, we have more people, greater need, less people to care for those patients. And so I think we have to build on some of the work that the team has done at Cook County, identify other creative approaches. It also includes, generative AI and other things where appropriate that we might be able to use to help. I just wanted to say that I'm committed to trying to be a partner and helping the team think through how we can address this, because the safety and quality issues are important, as well as supporting the team and the needs that they have.
And just a few questions. Thank you so much for this report. And I'm hoping that information is conveyed back to those nurses, especially because it looks like the numbers and metrics that you have so far for 2023 will show that we're continuing to move in an increasing path for hiring and the rapidity of hiring. You mentioned AI, and that actually was the first thing I had listed in terms of a question about is there software that might be available that might shore up some of those gaps in where humans and interacting with systems may be able to assist them moving through the process of hiring more quickly?
So that has not been, explored, but that's something we can certainly take back and work with the proper team to ensure that we have something that's a little bit more mainstream. We were trying to fix the immediate issue, which was hiring, which is why we put so much time and energy and resources in recruiting. And so the HR operations side of house, which is the other half, that's critically important as well, because having those boluses of agency folks that come in, it really is a challenge at times to get them all the way through so that they are in an orientation and they're able to hit the floors in an expeditious manner. And those same individuals are the ones, as I mentioned, that also answer the phone. So that's something we can take back and certainly look at. I may be back before you with a request for funds for something in the near future, if that is the direction we'd like to take. But I think that is something that can help us out tremendously.
That way you have a good balance between human personnel and services like iGreentree, et cetera.
Absolutely, so that we can track and trend the types of calls that are coming through. We have emails, we have a phone number, we have all of these things, but again, it does require people to go back and check. And so we have often heard that. We want, a person to answer the phone immediately. I'm not answering my phone right now because I'm physically here, but that does not mean that I don't care. We care, but we have to, learn how to balance through technology or some other support.
And in looking at methods to decrease your offers to fill positions, which is almost about 15% of, are you, and I know we had spoken before about those questionnaires about why someone may not take a position once it's offered to them. Have you been able to get some initial data on that so that we can look at lowering the offers to actual acceptance percentage?
I do, yes. So the declination reason, some don't give us a reason, they just say no. And then there's some other data to support, salaries that were insufficient. According to them, that's not the salary that they were looking for. 31 of those individuals, a number of them, personal reasons, family, child care, there's 28. Shift, schedule, not suitable, that's 18. Counter offers from employer is also a factor, because once we extend an offer, then all of a sudden their current employer wants to keep them and will provide, additional offerings. Culture is not a good fit. That's one of our reasons as well. Some folks don't pass our pre-employment process as well, so we place them in the declinations, but they really are not. These are offer recensions from our team because they didn't clear our process. And then one person said the position was not as originally as described, so they were not interested. So we do track those declinations, and actually they're in your notes from the slides as well. So there's content and detail on all of the metrics for slide 2 in your notes.
Thank you. And then the last thing that I'm seeing some agencies do is to look at methods of retaining those that are closer to retirement with offers of, an FTE percentage so that they have some time to start to do some of those retirement activities without being fully retired, or moving to a mentor level activities so that they have some time off to start retirement leisure, but are still have a foot in the system. Are you looking at some innovations to be able to keep those? Did you have a good percentage of folks that might be rolling towards that soon?
So we've been definitely exploring and discussing internally what our plans could be for those individuals, because we know that there's a pension situation, and so we have certainly been exploring that. We've been speaking with Mr. Rocha and our nursing leader and trying to figure out what methods we could probably employ there. I am not an expert, but definitely that's something that we could certainly explore if legally feasible.
Great, thank
you. And in addition to some of the communication out to our union partners, we do host a monthly meeting that's led by our CEO, and so I participate as well as some of my colleagues, and we provide these same metrics, not all of them, but I do provide hiring and separations, and we talk about the job fairs and the successes there, and so that information is shared with them on a monthly basis. And we realize that all of the nurses who are here today may not participate in that call, but their union leaders do participate or are invited to that call. So I just wanted to also note that we are actively sharing good information with them and happy to share more in different forums. All right.
I would like to shift from the onboarding of nurses to the institution to talk a little bit about what's the timeline with respect to onboarding agency. If this is an acute problem that we heard nurses express today, what is the timeline in terms of, is it 6 days, 6 weeks for agency staff? If this is an acute problem, have we responded to their concerns by utilizing what the market has to offer in terms of agency nurses?
So I can answer that. We've onboarded 60, which brings us to the safe nurse staffing level for our higher census, and from contracting to them being on site was 2 weeks.
2 weeks to agency nurses?
From not onboarding, from us saying we need to hire you, getting them, securing them, getting them onto the field.
So what is the timeline then, inclusive of getting them to the floor where they're actually practicing and making?
I would say it's probably, what is that? It's about
Anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks?
Yeah. And sometimes we expedite it like we did right now, and we get them so they get started, they get training, they have to learn our procedures, otherwise there's no value.
Are we able to, what is the market condition there in terms of agency? Are those individuals available, readily available to them?
What we have seen, and we can ask Meeting to come up in a minute, what we have seen is that people are available, the rates are coming down, but then as rates come down, you see a fluctuation in the workforce because it's less competitive. Some people may want to stay behind. You see that in our current job fair. We had 160, which is the most we've ever had for a nursing job fair. So as you're seeing some of the rates wane, people make different choices, but we do still have availability, and so we were able to get 60 very quickly. Again, correct, Dr. Story. Again, this is a consistency monitoring. We have a monitoring process. We have the Illinois Nurse Practice Act. We look at it. MENA has reports. We look at it every day. We look at what our census is and our ratios. We do predictions and analytics. And the minute we see something trending higher, we immediately go into action and hire. And we have a historical number that we look at. one of the things that we will make sure to always do corrective is to overestimate. One of the things in COVID also happened is that people didn't take a lot of vacation because we needed them and they wanted to be here. Now we're breathing a little easier. There's more places to go. So staff is utilizing benefits and we want them to utilize. And so we also need to, in addition to flexing a higher percentage of patients because we have a higher reg than normal, we also have higher vacation than normal. And so we need to make sure that people are safe and we want them to go and take their vacation. Their benefits, one of the things we're very proud of. But we need to make sure that we fix it. And so it was something, and they came in, and that's why I said, and we're happy to hear the employee's voice that occurred over a week to two, and it has now been corrected because there's staff on the floor who's helping to correct that as quickly as we can. So like all things, you are going to hear things. No agency is perfect. We're hearing the information. We reacted quickly. We saw the numbers. We went to the market. We employed them. And we're moving forward. And permanently, we're also hosting and expediting our hiring. So I would say that on both the operational level and what we're planning for, they're being addressed. But things will happen from time to time, and we have to make sure that we also meet the safety of our patients as much as we can, as quickly as we can, doing risk assessments on what's the best way to move that. And so I think the team did that. But Dr. Peters, you want to add anything?
Good morning. Just to add to Mr. Rocha, we identified the increased census in the first and second week of June. And then nationally, there was a trend in increase in medical surgical patients. So we actively went out and put the agency extra, because Cook County Roger Hospital, we staff around a census of 317, and suddenly we increased the number to approximately around 338. However, it does take, sometimes 3 to 4 weeks and sometimes 2 to 4 weeks. And there is a trend in the market in increased demand for med-surg nurses because every other hospital is seeing the same trend. And we track this trend on a bi-weekly basis. And also we track the productivity based on the staffing plan. However, there are very few days, we had increased census as well as increased absenteeism. I think that did not get us to the right place. And that night was tough. Nurses had, approximately 7 to 8 patients. We acknowledge, and the team did a great job grounding and really explaining to them the town hall. But these are the few days, we all, go home saying, what could we do differently? And that's kind of what we are doing. So again, a dedicated team is looking at this on a shift-by-shift basis. In fact, my nurse leaders actually, huddle 4 to 5 times a day to readjust the staffing. So there's a lot of collaboration and partnership, and many charge nurses are part of this discussion too. So, but again, we are looking at all those options. We continue to communicate, the plan, as well as hear their concerns and come back with the actions, engaging them. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just that there's an opportunity in the market. I think that we have the funds, and I appreciate your comments, Judge Israel, about the fact that we are trying to stay one step ahead of this, because if we're going to have a run rate, Pam, of almost $200 million in agency for this fiscal year, we absolutely should stay ahead of this.
And apparently, since there was a notable rise across hospitals in the country during this time, this is a good time to be able to look into the future too, to see that we'll likely have a similar rise October, November, as flu and COVID unfortunately may rear its head again, to anticipate, especially if you're looking at a 6-week onboarding process, if we can get that started as the pattern, before the pattern increases, because then they'll have a delay to be able to have those
we do surge and flex up for winter. And so we have, it's not a static. We look at what our ongoing census was over previous year, and then we even, the first few months going into any winter, which we don't know what the flu is going to be like, or whether we're going to have another dose of something like RSV. Others, we actually increase, and then as we're monitoring, if it's way in excess, we start to modulate to what our census is. So we do plan, and I always tell we plan ahead, we hire ahead. That's why actually during RSV, we actually were able to meet the demands because we hired pediatric nurses before others did, and we locked them down and got the contracts, and were able to meet the increased census. And so we were able to continue to be there for our patients and for pediatric patients and visit with them. We've done the same thing for COVID when we had anticipated waves. We not only have our own census, we look and meet internally to look at trends, to look at diseases, to look at areas that may trigger more inpatient census, and then I give the order to to make sure that we meet, we review the staffing plans, they review recommendation, and we augment. So we do stay ahead of them as quickly as we can. There will from time to time sometimes be some blips. And what you saw today is a good area for them to come and know that they're talking to us and that we respond and we get the people here.
I want to add to Ms. Rocha also, we also track the nurse sensitivity quality indicators because that's very important to provide safe quality care. And we correlate, we review. So we'll be, sharing those plans when the nursing updates come to the board. Thank you again.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit update on how our quality is trending too, because I know that's a question that's reviewed. But as Vina said, we have several dashboards that are updated daily, weekly, monthly, that tell us how patients, their length of stay, their discharge, any outcomes. We have reports that come to us that tell us many points of information that ensure that things are being safe and when we can alert and when we can escalate. But we can always do better, and this is an opportunity to make sure we're reviewing and capturing everything we can.
This is not a question, but it's just an observation from your report, Valerie. And I guess we've heard this before. The average age of our nurses is 48.
51.
51.
And nationally, it's about 50, so we're right there.
50. To me, that's disturbing. It says that what's in the pipeline. If the average age of a nurse here or in the national is 48 to 51, it seems like to what Director Harrington was speaking to in terms of what's ahead of us, not just here, but in the industry, if we haven't, the nursing average age is 51.
Well, I think it's important to clarify. It's not 51 for all nurses. We have a lot of young individuals who are going into.
I understand that, but my concern.
It's in the higher levels at the inpatient setting and the outpatient setting. And the reason is that now nurses have such an amazing opportunity to go into different things, to work from home, to be care coordinators, to review coding, to do chart reviews. And there's a lot of flexibility. So some of our younger nurses see that opportunity while they have little ones and others, and they're raising family of all areas, to be able to take advantage of those. So we are making changes as quickly as we can to try to create equal opportunities where we can in our system, to be able to have some accommodation to make these positions more competitive. But nationally, why you're seeing such a pressure on the inpatient and direct care nursing is that now the nursing field is so diverse. And there's so many opportunities for them to go different places. And sometimes they compensate even better than what we can compensate. And so we need to make sure that we're creating competitive opportunities, which we'll be talking about some coming up in the near future with our virtual care division. That will be something that could be integrated and help be more competitive.
My question, my comment was not about just inpatient, outpatient nursing. It's that we as an organization, healthcare system, the fact that if you have people who average age is 48 or 51, it means the pipeline is not being replenished, and that's my concern. Not for just this institution, inpatient, outpatient, but what we as a society are faced with in the next 5 to 10 years. If people are, their age is 48 to 51. Correct. Like I said, it's not a question or a comment. It's more of a comment about the future state that I'm concerned about.
Agreed. I think I appreciate all the discussion and all of this in the comments. I think just structurally, I would encourage everyone to actively participate in the HR committee meeting from that perspective as well. And I think we're doing a lot of things. We think about an integrated approach, right? We're talking about HR systems. We're talking about HR operations. We're talking about how do we automate? There's a quality connection. There's all of this as an integrated institution, and I think we will cover some of these things in the other committee reports as well. So I thank you.
Excellent.
That's it. The report is informational only, so no motion is needed. But I know we certainly appreciate the robust conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Story will now review the Managed Care Committee meeting minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Managed Care Committee met on Friday, July 21st at 10 a.m. The next regular meeting of the Managed Care Committee is scheduled for Friday, October the 20th at 10:30 a.m. The committee reviewed and discussed the report, which included information in the following subjects in terms of membership metrics, strategic initiatives, the pharmacy benefit management implementation. Aaron gave us an update on that initiative, and he talked, we discussed the marketing update and health equity initiatives that, Aaron and Dr. Collins and their team have been working on in the Managed Care Committee. There's some follow-up items that will be discussed going forward under the leadership of, Director Curry. There were no action items, and so that concludes the report out for the Managed Care Committee.
Thank you. There were no action items. I would like to entertain a motion to approve item 5C, the July 21st Managed Care Committee minutes.
Second. I guess.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next, Director Harrington will now review the Audit and Compliance Committee meeting minutes. Director Harrington?
Thank you. The Audit and Compliance Committee held a meeting on Friday, July 21st at 9 a.m. Our next regular meeting will take place on October 20th at 9 a.m. Nicole Amiro, Chief Corporate Compliance and Privacy Officer, provided a report which included the information on the following subjects: highlights of the first and second quarter FY 2023 System Compliance Program and County Care Medicaid Health Plan Compliance Program recoveries. The Audit Committee did go into closed session to receive closed meeting reports. A summary of that information will be provided when the board goes into closed session. Because there are no action items associated with closed session, the minutes can be approved at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve item 5D, the July 21st Audit and Compliance Committee meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next, Director Garza will now review the Quality and Patient Safety Committee meeting minutes.
Thank you. The Quality and Patient Safety Committee met on Thursday, July 13th at 10:30 a.m. We are not planning to have a re-review of metrics and presentations from that meeting, but if any additional questions are raised, staff are present and ready to address those questions. The next meeting of the committee is Thursday, August 17th at 10:30 a.m. The committee received the following reports, which are included in the minutes: the HRO dashboard, which included metrics from the following HRO work groups: patient experience, clinical documentation, clinical outcomes, readmissions, throughput, and HEDIS. Received regulatory and accreditation update. Was a follow-up item. Director Story requested information on the standards for the healthcare equity certification with the Joint Commission. Those are currently considered pre-published standards, but will be available in their final published form this September. Received an update from the HRO work group on throughput. Received EMS and MEC reports. The committee reviewed the Stroger and Provident Hospital Quality Committee summaries for informational purposes. The committee approved the following action items, which are included in the minutes. Approved Stroger and Provident Hospital medical staff appointments, reappointments, and changes. If there are no other questions on the minutes, they are being presented for the board's consideration at this time.
Thank you very much, Director Garza. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve item 5E, July 13th Quality and Patient Safety Committee meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Next, Director Ryder will review the Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met on Thursday, July 13th at 9 a.m. The next meeting of the committee will be held on Thursday, August 17th at 9 a.m. Again, we're not planning to have staff re-review reports and contracts from the meeting. While you are reviewing the minutes, Deb will have a slide reflected with a list of the contractual requests greater than $1 million. If any of these, if any additional questions come from the board, Charles, Pam, and staff are here and ready to address. The committee considered the following action items, which are again included in the minutes. Conditionally approved 19 contracts and procurement items. numbers 4, 6, 7, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 are pending review by contract compliance. On the screen, you'll see the contractual requests from the finance committee's fiscal impacts are greater than $1 million, which are highlighted for your information. During the review of request number 9, Slalom, doing business at Slalom Consulting, for human resources, strategic project management, or operational support improvement services, Director Story requested that the board receive a presentation at an upcoming board meeting on the overarching HR strategy that showcases the good work that has been done by the HR team, which we've talked about some of that already today, using both internal and external resources. This is planned for August. Director Harrington requested a future update on the process policy used to determine how existing equipment that is being replaced is salvaged, scrapped, or donated. So during the discussion of request number 1, contract for the xylene, fentanyl, and benzodiazepine test strips for whatever that. Could spell it for people if they want. Additional information was provided on the usage of the test strips to respond to the surge of overdoses that have involved xylazine and fentanyl. Mr. Rocha stated that the administration will bring back more details on the coordinated campaign on this topic. I apologize to Dr. Vegan and the other health professionals as I butcher some of these drugs and substances pronunciations. The committee also received and filed grant award related items. The committee received the following reports, which are also included in the minutes. The minority and women owned business enterprise report. The 2 emergency purchases were presented and reported the May fiscal year 2023 financials. And I would just also note that we're expecting to have staff from contract compliance underneath the Office of the President give us a presentation on their processes in either the September-October meeting, just for people's situational awareness. During the review of information on the MBEWBE report, the committee held a discussion regarding the relationship and responsibilities between the prime contractors and subcontractors. Anecdotal information was provided by Director Deere. He said that he was informed by a subcontractor that they were told by the prime contractor that they'd get paid faster by the prime contractor if the subcontractor paid the prime contractor an additional fee. It was noted that the county's Office of Contract Compliance conducts surveys with the subcontractors on the relationship with the prime contractors. Cook County Health's obligation under an executed contract is strictly with the prime, and the payment by CCH for any product services received by CCH is made to the prime. There is no contractor relationships that exist between Cook County Health and the subcontractors. Cook County Health's involvement would be limited to ensuring that prompt payments are made to the prime contractors for product services received under an executed contract between Cook County Health and the prime contractor. Again, we'll have more discussion with contract compliance. If there are no questions, the minutes are being presented for the board's approval at this time. And for ease, I will make the motion for the minutes.
Second. Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you for your efficiency, Director. Appreciate it. We do not have any contracts being presented directly to the board this time for consideration, and the proposed resolution regarding the pilot provider quality incentive program is being withdrawn at this time. So we can now, which was in your agenda, we can now move on to a report from CCH, all these initials, which will be presented by Dr. Rachel Rugen. Dr. Rugen.
Yeah, I can do the acronym.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
So this is the third quarter report, and we're first going to start out with, I'm going to start out with a very brief update on our youth tobacco ordinance. On May 24th, 2023, the Cook County Board of Commissioners amended what's called the Cook County Youth Tobacco Control Ordinance. And that was an ordinance that restricted the sale of cigarettes to anybody above the age of, below the age of 21. So you have to be 21 and older. However, this update, this new amendment restricts the sale of all flavored tobacco products, nicotine products, which was effective last week on July 23rd, just a couple of days ago. So this ordinance amendment applies to all licensed tobacco retailers in unincorporated Cook County. So that these unincorporated, these locations in unincorporated Cook receive their licenses from the Cook County Department of Public Health. And there are 42 locations that meet this criteria in an unincorporated Cook. So in January 29th was when the original tobacco ordinance was promulgated, raising the minimum legal sales of tobacco products from 18, which is what it was before, to 21. And shortly following, the state followed our lead and passed a statewide regulation law that restricted tobacco sales to anybody 21 years and older. So the health department is responsible for enforcement and compliance of what we call T21 or Tobacco 21 in unincorporated Cook County. And so we on a yearly basis conduct unannounced inspections of these 42 locations. And now we are expanding, looking for any flavored tobacco products. Next slide. Yeah. So basically, what we also have done in order to inform these 42 retailers that coming up this fall, when we do our inspections, that we also are going to be looking to make sure that they do not have any flavored nicotine products on their shelves. And if they do, they will be told to remove them. They can ultimately be cited. And we are working with the Sheriff's Department if there is any concerns that we have with enforcement. Next slide. And now the rest of the talk will be on sexually transmitted infections. Remember, our jurisdiction for the Health Department, not the health system, but the Health Department, excludes Chicago and the suburbs of Evanston, Oak Park, and Skokie, as well as Stickney Township. So when we're talking about surveillance for communicable diseases, we're talking about the vast majority of suburban Cook, but not the entire suburban area. And these are the reportable communicable diseases that come across our desk, the newest one being Mpox. It's no longer called monkeypox, it's Mpox, along with the others that you see there on the list, which we have been doing surveillance and investigating for decades. Next slide, please. So, as people are aware, surveillance is the ongoing systematic collection and analysis and interpretation and ultimately dissemination of health-related data that's essential to doing planning and implementation and ultimately prevention of these communicable diseases. So the way these communicable diseases for, you're skipping ahead. All right. So anyway, I was showing the form that was used, and I was going to be talking about why there's lag in data collection. This is the form that has to be filled out, and it has to be submitted to the health department. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So there's been concerns by people about why there's a lag in reporting this data. And the reason there's a lag is because we receive our data routed through the state database. So these forms that people fill out either come to us and we enter into the INEDS, the state database system, or it goes directly to the state and gets put in from their end. So that information has to be collated and analyzed by the state, and then they push out that information to us. And under COVID, there was a delay of up to 16 months in receiving this information. So we don't get it in real time. There's always a lag between 6 to 8 months, and then we have to take additional time to analyze our local data. And so overall, our data is going to be at least a year behind, and under COVID, it was even further behind. But we try to do our analysis as quickly as possible as soon as we get the data. Next slide, please. So this is how you can see our data from our STI surveillance report. And this is in PDF format on our website. And you can see it says 2021, and again, I explain why there's the lag in data. Next slide, please. And this is the national CDC report. And when we put out our reports locally, we include our report in comparison to Chicago's data using Chicago's annual report as well as the CDC. So again, that also creates a lag. As you can see, this was published this year by the CDC. And again, it's data only through 2021. So we are doing our best, and the state is in the process of upgrading their surveillance system, this IMEDS system, to a newer system that we are hoping will provide data to the local health departments faster and more completely. There is also new legislation that is on the governor's desk to sign that asks, that requires the state health department and the state to provide us with more complete data in a timely fashion. Next slide, please. Okay, so where we are now is we're seeing increased rates in chlamydia and syphilis. Gonorrhea rates are about steady. And we are also seeing an increase in people living with HIV, even though the HIV rates are steady. So as you can see, yeah, you can go to the population of, yeah, that's what I was, yeah, it's fine. I guess the slide was omitted. Okay. So populations of color, as we know, are disproportionately affected by STIs. And that's predominantly in the African-American population and secondarily in the Hispanic population. And we generally know the reasons for this around this table is that these are the communities that have least access to medical care. These are people that also have more lack of confidence in terms of reaching out for care for these infections as well as anything else in the medical system. Next slide. Next slide. So this is what we've been doing over the last year in STI testing and treatment initiative this spring. We started a partnership with Color Health, Inc., and also the Howard Brown Health Center to do testing, treatment, and referrals for predominantly chlamydia and gonorrhea. And Color Health, Inc. has a home mail-in test kit, and we are distributing through some junior colleges and community venues right now. But most people actually will get the information on our push out with our media campaign, and they call and they go online and request a test kit, and it gets sent in, and it then gets sent to a certified lab for analysis. The individual is then notified of their results and referred to a local clinic for treatment. It can be a Cook County site or a non-Cook County site, such as FQHCs and other locations that offer treatment for STIs. And we have had so far distributed over 250 test kits over the last 3 months. 86 test kits have been activated and returned, and 6 positive tests, which is about 7% positivity, have been diagnosed, and those people have been referred for treatment. And Howard Brown is now working on programs within the suburbs for screening, doing pop-up clinics for us, and they have screened 58 clients so far as of about 2 weeks ago. And we also have been involved with outreach, including during the Pride events last month, with the Pride Parade that included Mr. Rocha on the float, with Cook County Health and our health department, our other organizations and families and friends, and we pushed out over 5,000 cards bilingual about mental health issues as well as STI issues. Next slide. So this is the media campaign. We call it Don't Guess, Get a Test. There's more than 25 million new STD cases per year. Chlamydia and gonorrhea are the two most commonly reported. And chlamydia is the most frequently reported STI. Gonorrhea is in second place. And as we know, if it's left untreated, gonorrhea and chlamydia can lead to infertility and an increased risk for HIV and cervical cancer. So to reduce gonorrhea and chlamydia rates amongst 15 to 24 years old, we put up this media campaign. So the target are older adolescents and young adults. And we have done paid media ads on digital and social media. And to date, we've had 2.5 million impressions from this campaign. And we've done media interviews in both English and Spanish. And we're going to be uploading this again or putting another push for this campaign as part of a back to school push. And for what our media contractor, which is Flowers Media, this is a term I had not known, but they refer the early fall season as cuffing season. And this is when people are looking to partner up for the winter. And so this is a good time to provide appropriate STI awareness and prevention messaging. Next slide. So this is just a little bit more about the media campaign. Next slide.
Why Miami? But I just got to know, why Miami?
Why Miami?
Yeah, what happens in Miami stays in Miami.
Oh, you know what? This company that we're working with, Flowers, did this campaign in Miami, and so this.
Okay.
is.
We have a lot of people that go to Miami for spring.
No, I should swap out. No. I should swap out the slide for a local one.
I just don't, there's
No, good point. We also give out condoms by request. But, there is a lot of spring break activity from Chicago and Miami. So we do promote condoms, and there's a condom request form, and we will mail them out to people. Next slide. And this is other kinds of things that we are trying to improve in terms of creating better communication and collaboration around STIs. So just to highlight, we have worked on improving our data visualization, and people are probably aware of our Cook County Health Atlas, which parallels the city's Chicago Health Atlas. And so data is put in there as well as on our website. MPOX, we have worked with CCH on the clinical side and Core Center through providing individualized care and referral for people who are diagnosed with MPOX in terms of providing vaccination and treatment. We also obviously do all the surveillance activities around it and contact tracing. Congenital syphilis surveillance is very, very important. There's a fetal infant mortality morbidity review, which is a statewide meeting that Cook County and the city participate in with IDPH, where we discuss difficult cases and try to strategize about decreasing congenital syphilis. This is a major problem. And so we're having a big push now within our health department, and it's a nationally recognized issue that congenital syphilis is 100% preventable. And a child who is born with syphilis can basically have major medical issues and potentially die. So we also are involved with the STI subcommittee of the NIFIC, which is the Northern Illinois Public Health Consortium, and our staff has been really pushing to re-promote the STI work in the STI subcommittee of the Communicable Diseases larger committee of this organization. And we also work directly with the STI division and IDPH, trying to work to get as timely reports as possible. And we obviously work with our colleagues in Chicago and the other health departments in the collar counties. Next slide. Okay, next steps. Almost done here. So these are the kinds of things that we're trying to do now, is that we're trying to enhance our case reporting. All of these, the form that you saw briefly for syphilis cases and HIV, it's all done on paper. For HIV, it's all done on paper. We're not, everything has to be sent out to the state when we get a report of HIV in a double envelope, sealed envelope, and it goes to the state that way. So the state finally, as part of the revision of the new surveillance system, hopefully will be putting these things electronically online. And what we have done in our communicable diseases division, I mean, kudos to them, to Kelly Bemis especially. What she has done is made a program for optical character recognition. So in other words, we can take the written reports and scan them in, and then it crosses over into the INED electronic form. So when we get things on paper, we can then put it into the electronic form without having to do it manually. And this we have just started doing now. We are also working on an electronic case reporting project with CDC and IDPH to try to work with local medical providers and hospital systems to give us, to give them quicker and more streamlined ways of reporting these things, and that where this stream will come into the health department locally, not just the state. And I think that's it. Next slide. Thank you. I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, could you go back to slide 7? It appears that gonorrhea and people new HIV diagnosis are stable, which in some respects I guess is a good thing. They're not going up, they're not going down, they're in the same.
Well, first of all, with HIV, as you know, there is a national program called Getting to Zero. So we want that to be going down. We want new HIV diagnoses to be going down, but actually they have leveled out. And that's actually a problem. We want them to be going down. We're going to be seeing more people living with HIV because as long as there are new diagnoses, there's more people living with HIV, right? And our job is to get them into care, but we really want to prevent HIV, and we want that arrow to be going down. With gonorrhea, it looks like it's steady, but we think that that could also be due to underreporting because if chlamydia is going up and frequently people are co-infected with chlamydia and gonorrhea, we imagine that gonorrhea is actually going up, but the data at this point shows that it's about steady.
And one of the things that I was thinking about, the drugs on the market now that reduce the chances that HIV will be communicated to another person, PrEP and other drugs, does that have anything to do with it being stable? I mean, still the same number of people, but fewer people are actually.
Oh, absolutely. Now what we've been showing, and I'm actually an HIV provider. That's I'm a primary care provider for women with HIV at our core center. If people are undetectable on the medications now, it's been shown that it's highly likely that they cannot transmit the infection. So new infections are from people that don't know they have HIV or they're not in treatment.
And you mentioned congenital syphilis. What percentage of that is overall syphilis? Or we don't have the data?
I can get that number for you. I think it's less than 1%.
Yeah, and on slide 11, that's the surveillance map, and it's hard to figure out. I assume these are different communicable diseases based on the color coding.
It's not different diseases. It's the penetration of the number of cases. So the darker the purple, and it's much easier to obviously see if you see it in print or see it on our website where you can blow it up.
Hotspots, I guess that's what.
But the hotspots are mainly, as you can see, there are certain hotspots in the northern suburban area, but you see west and also the southwest areas. So the darker purple are the higher penetration of so more cases have been diagnosed.
Yeah, and it's not really a question, it's more an observation. As regional health officer, that's the position I retired from, one of the things that people don't know, there are 130 municipalities in Cook County, and that means there are probably 130 mayors and elected officials. City of Chicago is just one, and so I want to applaud the Cook County Department of Public Health because they have to deal with a lot of individual jurisdictions in terms of getting their work done. So you're doing a yeoman's job. Yeah, what's up?
Thank you.
I have a question. And I saw this on a commercial somewhere about, I think you may mention that if they're on certain medications, they cannot transmit the disease to someone else?
If you're on the medication and what we call your viral load is undetectable. So in other words, if the lab test that's used to detect how much of the HIV virus is circulating in your blood is undetectable, then it means you're probably untransmittable. So undetectable means untransmittable. So you cannot pass it on.
Give me some numbers when you say that. What do you really mean by it? When you say that a person cannot transmit it? And you say it's undetectable, but give me something quantifiable.
Correct. That if there's a test, it's called a viral load, that is done in the laboratory, and that is a marker of actually detecting the viral particles for HIV, so the HIV virus in the blood.
Understood.
Right.
So I think the number you're looking for is 0.
It's 0.
If that number
Yeah.
is 0, then you can't.
There are the assays vary between like less than 25 to less than 40 particles, right? So below that, the machine cannot detect anything. So it'll come out, the report will read either less than 40 or it'll actually read undetectable. So I can't tell you, does that mean that they saw 5? They can't see, the machine, the technology cannot detect less than 40 viral particles, you know, in a high power field on the microscope or however it's, it's done. And so when it's below that level, you are considered undetectable, and then that means that you are not likely to be able to transmit the virus to somebody else.
Okay. I was just curious.
Thank you. Any other additional questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it, the thorough report.
Thank you.
The next item is a report from the CEO. Mr. Rocha.
Good afternoon. Good, obviously, good morning, good afternoon almost. First, we want to start with our Providence Scholarship Awards. And so on July 31st, we are happy to be reporting that the Providence Scholarship Fund will award its 2023 scholarships to 60 healthcare students who are committed to caring for underserved communities. The fund was established through a partnership between the Cook County Health, the Cook County Health Foundation, and the Cook County offices under the president, and its Project Rainbow initiative designed to address education barriers and grow our local healthcare workforce. And so we're very excited about this, and congratulations to all the team and everyone who helped make this possible. Also, on our next slide, we have our recognition, continuing on Provident theme. We are very happy to be having a Provident 30th anniversary. Now, Provident is, of course, much older than that. Cook County Health will be holding a press conference and reception celebrating Provident Hospital's 30th anniversary as part of the Cook County Health System on Thursday, August 10th. Cook County Health will also be hosting a Facebook Live event discussing the history of Provident Hospital on August 8th at 10:15 a.m. You can also check our anniversary themed float at the Bud Billiken Parade on August 12th. Cook County Health will also be providing medical support along the parade route. So congratulations to the Provident team and happy 30th anniversary. Also, we want to recognize the Cook County Health Foundation Gala that will be occurring on October 25th. In support of Cook County Health, our mission, the Cook County Health Foundation will be hosting their annual gala on Wednesday, October 25th. This year's theme is a new era of health equity. The Cook County Health Foundation is committed to expanding access to and improving the health and well-being of all residents, in particular, the most underserved communities. And then also, just quickly, wanted to go over our strategic initiatives update. First and foremost, in Director Story, one of the initiatives you talked about, we're very pleased to discuss that we had our first and hosted our first nursing school summit. That was with leaders coming from all over the Illinois region to work with our nursing department to figure out how we could strategize to create more inroads to nursing here at Cook County Health, as well as how our staff and faculty could help and complement the work that is being done by the Illinois nursing school programs across the state to make sure that we could be able to create those partnerships. We could have rotations and increase Cook County Health as a employer of choice to these rising students. And so excellent work came out of that. Also wanted to report we received our Gold Plus Award from the American Heart Association for the management of heart failure. We approved expansion of dermatology to the Provident campus. We were able to bring on board all new anesthesia machines that were installed in Provident to expand its operating capabilities. The JTDC trained the non-health staff for the use of Narcan. We implemented clear triage to provide access to standardized nursing protocols and connect patients with care quickly. We also started our high reliability organization work group at the Provident campus. We've had the members identify the structures in place and will commence meeting to ensure a quality resilience program at the Provident campus. Our teletracking committee instituted and identified enhancements. We also began the advertisement of our request for proposals for a group to help us convene our first behavioral health summit for the Cook County Health organization. We were awarded a $2.1 million grant for Advanced Practitioner Nurses Fellowship Program, and we updated our EMR change control process. Coming soon, we have our e-consult replacement for referral management and scheduling, our OneSource Enterprise Virtual Care. Also, we have payment process improvement to reduce manual invoice entry, Providence same-day surgery process improvements, system upgrade of our Pyxis equipment, CCDPH launching joint liquid nicotine sales enforcement with the Sheriff's Office, developing a structured CDI program to lead and train providers on clinical documentation, integrity, and coding, the Cook County Health proposal for state opiate funding, and then a grant award for $2 million for asylum seekers is on the horizon to us, and then also the Supreme Court allowing the elimination of cash bail in September. Those are some of our updated events. Now I'd like to talk also about some investments we have made to make sure that we are becoming the provider of choice. We'd like to recognize Valerie Amos back to discuss our Cook County Employee Benefits update.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha. Valerie Amos again, Chief Human Resources Officer. What you have before you is some great information. This is a benefits update, the paid paternity leave policy. As you can see on the slide, the Cook County Board of Commissioners approved a resolution to create a more inclusive policy for all Cook County employees. So this is an effort that is being led by Cook County proper, and in terms of our current policy, our old policy, as you can see, allowed the birth parent only to participate in the policy and program. 4 weeks were paid, 6 weeks if there was cesarean birth, and they may have accrued, used their accrued vacation sick time, but not to exceed 6 months. This new policy allows more flexibility and benefits, and hopefully will attract new talent to the organization and retain our current talent. The new policy, though, outlines that the birth parent, non-birthing biological parent, intended parent of gestational surrogacy, parent of adopted child, or foster parent placed with the child age 17 or younger can participate in this updated policy. So this provides, again, much more flexibility for those individuals who are identified as parents And then this policy also allows for 12 weeks of paid time off. So in the past, 4 or 6 weeks, using your accrued time, and then the rest would be unpaid. And so this time, we are moving towards the 12 weeks of paid time. And so we appreciate the Cook County Bureau Chief and team for placing this policy, and we will be adopting our portion of this policy. Pay increases. The Cook County Board of Commissioners also approved contract extensions, which includes 3.5% pay increases for all Cook County employees, including our Cook County health staff, retroactive to December 2021. So this is really exciting news for us. It applies to both union and non-union, as well as approved future 5% pay increase that's slated for mid-2025. So this is in addition to the cost of living increases that were approved by the Board of Commissioners in 2021. So these are two important benefit initiatives, and if there are no questions, I will take my seat. You have a
Thank you. Just wanted to point out, because I think this is a wonderful paid paternity leave policy. So with this expansion and who's eligible, in a household, employees, birth, non-birth parent, they could both take advantage of this policy. Is that correct?
If they are employees of the county system, they could take advantage of this policy.
Yeah,
That is
and that would
correct.
then give the coverage for up to the 6 months if one took coverage and the other. Is that how that works?
So 12 weeks.
So it still
for each.
preserves that 12 weeks.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And also includes individuals who are recently adopting a child, as well as someone who has recently adopted a child or brought a new child into their home.
Very good. That's great.
I'm just curious, how do we think this will help us with the recruitment?
So again, most companies that I've worked for, and I am a registered nurse and was at the bedside for many years before I stepped into leadership, managing nurses, and then, of course, stepping into HR. 3 kids, I didn't have this privilege where I worked. I mean, I had cesarean births personally, and so when my benefits were out, I was either unpaid if I wanted to stay home for 12 weeks. And so we believe that this makes us more competitive as not only a health system, but, as a county system, because other hospitals perhaps still may have that old policy as we had, which is 4 weeks for vaginal births and 6 weeks for cesarean births.
So that category of nurses, I think, that we seem to be lacking, where we have a difficulty in getting them into the system, will this impact them?
We hope it does, as we'll say, so we hope that,
age. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
And-
Yeah, I mean, we're going to, of course, use it as one of our tools as we're attracting talent to the organization.
I was just trying to think of how do you really take this tool and arm it to really serve the purpose that we're hoping that it will do? Because I may think this is a great organization, then I think this other organization is great as well. Then how do I use this as a determining factor to push me to say, come to this location?
Benefits packages.
Yep.
And new potential hirees are specifically looking at not only salary, but benefits packages down the line, which we're wanting to have a longer term employee that stays 10 to 12 years. So especially that those younger recruits that Director Story was mentioning, when they're looking at the potential options between one job and another, and the salary is fairly similar, then the benefits of being able to have not only themselves, but their parenting partner, be able to have time off, or versus another hospital that may not, that can certainly lead to be a deciding factor.
So the question I have, and I'm glad you did that, so if I'm looking at the job, how likely am I to really, and I'm saying from a practical standpoint, make that comparison? Because let's just say hospital B actually has a slightly higher wage, but I'm over here at county, and I'm just looking at those numbers, and I'm younger, so I'm not as savvy to look at the benefits package. How do you get me to see that difference?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, and that's something that we're we're definitely working on. We have been marketing to, in social media to attract some of the talent through, as I mentioned before, some of the TikTok and social media platforms and so forth. But we do, in fact, have our benefits information online as well. And so I think we'll just continually adopt new ways of outreach to ensure that our younger generation, if you will, understand what we have to offer. As Mr. Rocha mentioned, we had our first, nursing summit, and so those professors of the colleges were physically here with Dr. Peters and myself and her nursing leadership team, and all of that information was shared at the summit by me, but most importantly, we have a relationship with those schools, those universities, and so we are trying to embed ourselves in, those particular areas so that they can identify with Cook County and understand what we have to offer.
Just following up on what Sam was saying, one way to do it, unless you're doing it, is to create an economic value of not just the salary, but the position and the full benefits. And a lot of places don't do that. And so, to your point, if you have that, then you already made the candidate that much smarter. And if the other place doesn't produce it, then that tells them something right there. But if you haven't used one of those, I have one I could share with you.
That's great. Thank you. And we have created some really great benefits information, worked with our internal marketing team and our external partners as well to create something similar. It's not a total value proposition, but it is more benefit specific, and so it identifies how we compare with the market, and we're going to add this to that particular benefits information. But great ideas. I welcome them. Thank you. No other questions?
And next, I want to bring forward Dr. Peter Hart. We've been showcasing the growth of some of our services, and our nephrology service line has done an exceptional job in bringing more services to patients in need. And so wanted to share this time with Dr. Hart to go over the amazing work our nephrology team has put forward. Dr. Hart?
Good morning. Good morning, Chairman Taylor, and good morning, directors. Peter Hart, I'm chair of the Department of Medicine, but also a nephrologist. And folks have always asked me, well, what do nephrologists do? And I simply tell them the heart pumps the blood. We clean the blood. So this presentation really is the summary of what the Division of Nephrology and the dialysis staff have done in the past several years. What you're seeing on this slide is a diverse and dedicated population of our staff who are truly exceptional clinicians and providers that are passionate to provide care for patients with kidney diseases through prevention, continuity of care for chronic progressive kidney disease, and ultimately for dialysis services. I should add that 100% of the physician staff either trained here for their internship and or were fellows at Cook County Health. So their commitment to providing care for our patients is not just missional, but it's a passion. Next slide. Next slide. We've been on a journey, and I showed this slide specifically to give you an idea of what has happened in the last 30 to 40 years. All we had as Stroger was Stroger dialysis service and stomach dialysis. In the last 5 years, because of the dedication and commitment of the system leadership, past and present boards, we now are providing what is considered standard of care for renal replacement therapy for all of our patients. Continuous renal replacement therapy, peritoneal dialysis that is home-based, and very proud to also say we've extended inpatient and outpatient dialysis services to Providence. The goal ultimately is that we'll have a comprehensive kidney care center services across the entire Cook County Health. So how are we doing? Next slide. In addition to the dialysis services, we have nephrology clinics across, can you scroll a little? I can't see it. I want to see the bottom, that's right. Yeah. Nephrology clinics for all of our clinics, most of them situated in ambulatory centers besides Stroger, but at Providence, Blue Island, Sarmac, and Core Center. We also have a unique interventional nephrology program that is physician-run. Across the United States, most biopsy services are now delegated to interventional radiologists. At this hospital and in our institution, our nephrologists actually do the biopsy themselves and screen, and two of them are now certified as interventional nephrologists, Dr. Osei and Dr. Joshi. We do have an inpatient consult service that is one of the busiest at Stroger Hospital. In addition, for continuity of care, we have an in-consult service that allows us to increasingly have our primary care providers refer patients to us so that in real time, their questions are answered and we're able to provide continuity of care. I should mention specifically that patient educational initiatives is unique for our patients with CKD. And the kidney health, program is uniquely positioned. Every patient that is seen in the renal clinic is referred to a kidney health class so that they can learn self-management skills, but even most important, the ability to understand the progression of the kidney diseases. Next slide. So how are we doing with dialysis? I'm proud to say in 2022, if you notice the blue, slide, you're looking at that, that truly are the inpatients, outpatients is, outpatients is orange, blue, outpatients is blue, inpatients is orange. It's intentional. At the social dialysis unit, we separated out the inpatient and outpatient population, making sure that most of the inpatients are dialyzed in real time so that we can improve patient throughput. For the outpatients, because it's a fixed number of chairs, we've steadily stabilized the number of outpatients we dialyze. Overall, for procedural charges in FY22, charges for outpatients was in excess of $3 million and for inpatients in excess of $5 million. The peritoneal dialysis treatment really is a testament to almost folks who are here. Remember that we consider this to be the standard of care for our patients. This is home-based. They receive this treatment, they get trained, and they receive peritoneal dialysis at home. So this, in the past 1 year, this program has grown exponentially, and I'm grateful to several of the sisters who are here, who truly helped us not only launch, but continue, to progress with the peritoneal dialysis treatment programs. Procedural charges in the past 12 months have been in excess of $2 million. Next slide. This is the jewel that we're proud of, because for a number of years, we were unable to actually have a Providence outpatient dialysis center. I am proud to say that this was launched, in 2021. In the past 12 months to 18 months, we now have had about 75% occupancy for this Providence dialysis unit. It gives me a lot of pride, truly, and with gratitude to several of our system leaders who are here. Most of these patients have asked us, I have diabetes, I have hypertension, I have chronic kidney disease. When you diagnose end-stage renal disease, you send me out to community private dialysis centers. I want to be in Cook County because that is our medical home. 9 out of 10 patients who progress to end-stage kidney disease within the Cook County Health will refer them, and they qualify, and they are placed in the Providence dialysis unit. I am pleased with that trajectory, and we know we'll continue to grow. Next slide. The inpatient service is also a growth trajectory, because prior to now, several of the patients who present at Providence have end-stage kidney disease, do need dialysis, we transfer them to Stroger for placement of lines and for initiation of dialysis. With gratitude to most of the leaders here, since October 2022, we now have and can actually do dialysis for inpatients at Providence and that has significantly reduced the number of patients who transfer from Providence to Georgia for dialysis. And, currently it's up to 55% rather than 50. Next slide. The transplant pilot program is unique. Most patients we have are either underinsured, uninsured, or really have no access for kidney transplantation. For many, many years, these patients were given the only option they had was maintenance dialysis, hemodialysis, or peritoneal dialysis. Over the past 18 months, with the support of system leadership, we piloted a program for these patients screened here. Can we really find a way to refer them to a transplant center? UIC partnered with us, and to date, we've referred in excess of 250 patients. Of these patients, 33 of them are on active list. If you notice, 21 of these patients have actually received kidney transplant. That is significantly higher than the national average of patients from minority populations who truly have access, to kidney transplantation. And I am proud to also say in the fall of this year, we will now have an established pre-transplant clinic at Georgia Hospital. The specific advantage for this is that these patients then, if they have a living donor partner that qualifies for kidney transplant, we can then recommend and refer them, and they will get preemptive kidney transplantation, i.e., they would not then have the option to be on dialysis. And clearly, they have the opportunity to engage back actively into active employment within the community. Next slide. Race is not a biological concept. And as someone who's practiced nephrology for a number of years, I was bothered by the fact that the way we measure the basic kidney function, and for most of the medical folks here, you remember we use the glomerular filtration rate. One factor was race. And it distinguished between African Americans and non-African Americans. This has no biological concept whatsoever. And what that meant was, A, we could not then diagnose kidney disease early. B, we couldn't refer them early for kidney transplantation. And C, even more impactful, for the progression of kidney disease, there was delay in classifying disease stage 3A, stage 3B, stage 4, and stage 5. This has been a national conversation over several years. National societies, particularly the American Society of Nephrology and the NKF, everybody came together and said, well, could we remove the risk factor in establishing what GFR means? And if we did that, then truly you have a representation of the true burden of kidney failure and kidney disease in these patients. All societies agreed to that. It was implemented and agreed to in 2021. And then with the support truly, and this time I have to be specific, Dr. Fagan, Mr. Rocha, several of my colleagues in the Department of Medicine, and of course the Department of Pathology, we've now implemented a race-free CKD EPI calculation of GFR within the Cook County system. This truly is what it should be, that measures accurate kidney function regardless of one's race. And it's a much more representative data of what truly, with A, we'll be able to diagnose early, B, intervention is going to be early, and referral patterns will be early. And lastly, community engagement. Dr. Perumal, Dr. Joshi, Dr. Albert Ose are truly engaged in several of these preventive and education task force for kidney diseases. The goal really is to move the conversation about progression of kidney disease into a much better and broader conversation about kidney health. That truly should be the focus for our kidney care. And thank you for this presentation. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you. Yeah.
I found that quite interesting on the race-free. EGFR still includes it. Why is that?
So the EGFR current, remember the E is the estimated.
You sure?
Yeah, it is. So here, what we did is CKD EPI has always had race. This time, so we remove the arrow and let's find a way to make sure it truly measures one's glomerular filtration rate. That is now standard. It is national, and it is standardized. Oh, yeah.
So my question to you is, and this is truly a question, in your opinion, is it appropriate for the EGFR to still consider race?
No. I don't think it should. And the reason, as you know, is that so that I don't want to be too mathematical, but the truth is that the estimated GFR considers gender, considers age. Those are appropriate biologic phenomena. The arrow should never have been there. Weight makes sense. Those are biologic metrics. But race is not a biologic metric. So the decision was take that out, then the correcting factors was adjusted, and the CKD EPR, it's important to actually put that, the CKD EPR formula now recognizes that once the arrow is out, then truly the EGFR measurement, and remember this is an estimate, it isn't a creatinine clearance. Creatinine clearance measured is the accurate GFR. Here, we're getting an estimate of what is your kidney function at the time of presentation, based simply on measuring a serum creatinine. So without the raise, we're now fairly confident we're truly getting the accurate measure of one's estimated GFR.
So when the EGFR is taken, and the idea behind it, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but it's to see what is actually taking place in that individual to try to do preemptive work.
Correct.
So then what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing, that is not really indicative of what may be happening in that person. And we recognizing it's estimated, but it's still, you're putting a factor in there that changes what you think or you don't think according to the number that's generated.
That has always been the trajectory of the measurement. We estimated GFR. We use that to estimate classes. So if you remember, this is not a lecture. If not, I would say, well, that's CKD stage 1, CKD stage 2, CKD stage 3, CKD stage 4, CKD stage 5. All of those bandwidths are between 30 mils per minute. So really, with the really grouping stage diagnosis, and we tell our trainees, and including our pharmacists, we really can't use that to measure, for instance, drug dosing, because truly they are categorized based on stage. The reason this is important is that prior to this time, several of African American patients truly were underdiagnosed, because once you put the arrow, the correcting factor is 1.1.56. Clearly, you're underdiagnosed. So if we take it out, let's use the correcting factor and make sure, regardless of your race, we determine your GFR based on your single measurement, which is a serum creatinine. Yes, it depends on muscle mass. Yes, it's on total body water, but that's not the question here. The key is that race is not a biologic, physiologic phenomenon, and therefore it should not factor in.
Thank you. Thank you for your amazing work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Very well done.
And next, we just have one last final announcement in my report. And so did want to share that over the last 2 days, our CMS star quality ratings came out. And so we're very happy to share with the board that for the first time, Stroger Hospital is now a 3-star facility. And so you can see our progression there from February 2019 into the present. We've gone from a 1-star to a 3-star, but steadily improving since 2019, every single reporting period, and the score increasing. And just wanted to recognize our team, and we just missed. So this year we had an improvement of 0.58, and had we had a little more improvement of 0.18, it would have been a 4-star. So we just missed a 4-star, but I know we are on track to do excellent work. And so really just want to congratulate our quality team, our clinical team. They're all here, and our clinical leaders for their amazing work. And the journey still continues to, I know they're committed to the 4-star and then the 5-star, but congratulations to our amazing team and their amazing work and their great progress and recognition of that continued journey. And so congratulations to all of our team. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you very much for the thorough report. And then congrats to the quality team, Dr. Hart. I mean, this is great work. So we really appreciate this. This is why we do what we do, frankly. Thank you. I think the board will be going into closed session today, correct? Right, perfect. The board will be going into closed session. Action is not expected to be taken in open session after the discussion in the closed sessions. So we know. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into closed. So for the closed meeting, I gotta say it, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into closed meeting pursuant to the following exceptions to the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120-2C 1, 2, 11, 12, 17, and 29. I got it right.
Now so moved.
Seconded. Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Madam Secretary, will you please take a roll call vote on the motion?
Roll call vote on the motion to go into closed session, aye or nay. Director Bott is, I believe he is remotely not voting.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Curry?
Aye.
Vice Chair Deere is absent. Director Garza?
Aye.
Director Harrington?
Aye.
Director Ryder is absent. Director Robinson?
Aye.
Director Sorrell?
Aye.
Director Story?
Aye.
Director Webster Cross? Aye. And Chair Taylor?
Aye.
You have 8 yeas and 3 absent.
Thank you. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Thank you all, staff. We appreciate all your help. Great work. Really, really, really great work.